Alright, today we are going to talk about ancient China, which is located in East Asia, around the Huang River, but also somewhat around the Yangtze River too. Now, the Huang River was really great for farming because it deposited silt called loess, which was yellow, and the Huang is literally translated the Yellow River. And this loess sole, which is yellow in color, is deposited around the river, which makes it really good for growing crops. Now, China's history is really characterized by something called a dynasty. A dynasty is a family which passes down power from generation to generation. Now, China is not the only civilization to have dynasties. All the other ones do too. But the dynasty is going to be the dominant form of political organization in China for a very long period of time, up into very recent history too. So we really talk about dynasties in China. The first Chinese dynasty is the Shang, which lasted from about 1750 to 1022 BCE. And they were ruled by a warrior aristocracy. Now, they created an early pictogram writing system, and they believed in ancestor worship too, which means they would worship their dead relatives. Now, the Shang dynasty was conquered by the Zhou dynasty. And the Zhou dynasty came up with this concept of the mandate from heaven. They believed that they were chosen by divine forces to rule over China. But if they were not ruling effectively, if they were not being good rulers, then the heavens could take away the power of that dynasty to rule. So it was used to legitimize their rule, but it was also used to show that it was time for the dynasties to change. Now, the change from the Shang to the Zhou starts something called the dynastic cycle, which is this process of constantly replacing dynasties as they become ineffective. And basically it starts out with a new dynasty, and they are taking power and they are improving society. But eventually they become corrupt and ineffective. Something happens where they are not doing a good job. It could be a bad ruler, it could be some famines or some droughts. And the civilization is not doing very well. So a rebellion occurs, and they use the mandate from heaven, this idea that they've lost the heavens' divinely appointed rule. And a new dynasty takes power. The new dynasty improves, but eventually becomes corrupt. And we have this cycle constantly reoccurring of dynasties taking over each other. Now, after the Zhou dynasty, they enter a period of time called the Era of Warring States, from 480 to 221 BCE. And this is a large civil war in China, where there were a bunch of different dynasties competing for the throne with the Zhou dynasty. And this very long civil war made most people of China favor a strong central government. They would want one strong central government so that they wouldn't have all this fighting. One of the things that was really popular in the Era of Warring States was to go in and burn another dynasty's or another territory's crops. And so there was a lot of starvation to go along with all the killing that was happening during the Civil War. Now, there were several different philosophies that developed during the Era of Warring States, and they were sort of attempting to solve the problems that were created in the chaos of this time period. And they are legalism, Taoism, and Confucianism. Now, Confucianism was started by a guy named Confucius, and all of his ideas were recorded in the books called the Analects. Now, Confucius was a religious person, but Confucianism itself focuses more on human action and not as much on religion. He also really focused on virtue, okay? The ideas of respect and manners and avoiding excess, okay? Not having more than you need. He believed that a ruler should be virtuous, and that if he acted virtuously, the society would function correctly. If he led by example, if he was virtuous, the people would be virtuous as well. Now, another part of this virtue included what's called the 5 relationships, sometimes called their 5 relationships of respect. And it's basically, it reinforces a hierarchy in China, that the relationship between the ruler and the subject, between the father and the son, the husband and the wife, the older to the younger, and a friend to a friend. Now, in all of these, there is a superior and inferior person. The inferior person always has to submit to the superior. And if everybody does this, if everybody follows these 5 relationships, then society functions correctly and will have order. Confucianism also stressed filial piety, which is basically the importance of the family at organizing society and teaching these ideas of virtue. Education was also very important in Confucianism. Another Chinese philosophy or religion was Taoism, and sometimes you'll see different spellings of this, also Taoism there. This was started by a guy named Lao Tzu, and his ideas were recorded in the Tao Te Ching. Now, Lao Tzu believed in one universal force called the Tao, and the Tao will balance yin and yang. Now, yin and yang is the balance of good and evil. So the Tao sort of balances good and evil and keeps all things ordered in society. Now, to a Taoist, evil is just as important as good. Because to a Taoist, you cannot really understand what good is without evil. Just like if you ate pizza every single day, even if you love pizza, okay, it's going to become old after a while and you're not going to enjoy it. So without something that's bad, you can't understand what's good. They also believed in Wu Wei, the sort of idea of do without doing. That if you just relax and let things be, the Tao is going to handle things. It's eventually going to balance out good and evil. They also believed in patience, because if you're waiting for the Tao, you're going to have to be patient. Selflessness and self-sufficiency. Now, this did have some religious aspects to it, including ancestor worship, spirit worship, nature worship. It also includes some ideas of magic and fortune telling as well. But this was really religious based. And they thought that the government didn't really have a part in ordering society, that the Tao was going to do it. And so they believed that the government was useless because it interferes with the Tao. The third philosophy is legalism. Now, there's no single founder of legalism, although Han Feizi and Qin Shi Huangdi are pretty influential in getting it going. Now, legalists believe that people are naturally bad, that they're evil and selfish. And so legalists sort of hold that because people are bad, the government needs to be harsh. It needs to be a very strong government with harsh and cruel punishments needed to keep people in line. And this would create an orderly society. Now, they also believed that education and religion were harmful to society because they often influence people not to be loyal to the government, or at least that they'd be more loyal to their religion than to the government. Especially Confucianist beliefs. The legalists definitely attack Confucianist beliefs. And then that is it for East Asian civilization, Taoism, legalism, and Confucianism.